So we're going over yesterday's work and we're checking to see if you did it right and that you're showing the right work. So again, on this next one, let's just go right to it. Where's the 10 spot? Yes, ma'am. The 6 and the 1. So I need all of you right now to put a little mark right here that this is where we're rounding to. Because I have to take off if you're not paying attention and writing everything that I do. Then these two numbers are going to change to zeros because we're rounding to the 10. So we should have 1 0 in the back. So now we're going to see, is this closer to 36 or 37? 36. Is this closer to 51 or 52? 51. So let's see if you got, when you added this up, you got a 0. In fact, I'll add it right here. 6 and 1 is what? 7. And 3 and 5 is what? Is 8. Give yourself a check if you got 870. On this one, when we added this one up, by the way, over here, 0 and 0 was 0. 7 and 3 was 10. We carried a little 1. And then 4, 5, 6, 7. So if you got a 700, give yourself a check. Look at the problem. It says 428 plus 265. Look for the problem, 428 and 265. So that's 1. Now we're on 2. Now, again, where's the tens place on the number 3? Is it the 2, the 8, or the 7? 8. It's the 8. So we're going to draw a line here. You need to draw a line. Then these two are going to change to zeros. And is this now we're going to round it. Is this closer to 27 or 28? I'm sorry, it never goes down. Is it closer to 28 or 29? 29. And you should be able to start seeing it. Like if I've got $287, I've almost got 290. So that's a 29. Put away the sharpeners and everything else now. All right, on this. Is this closer to 32 or 33? 32. And we probably added over here, so that was a 0. What's 9 plus 2? 11. 11, because I can see a 10, but then there's one extra than a 10. So it is going to be 11, and then this is going to be 6. So if you have a 610, give yourself a check. Then, on this one again, we're rounding to the tens. So which one is the tens? The 5, the 9, or the 5? The 9. When I say 90, 10 is the tens place. So put a little line. That's where we're rounding. What happens to the 5 and the 1? It becomes a what? Becomes a 0. And then let's look at this right here. Is this closer to 59? Look at your neighbor. Or is it closer to 60? 60. It is closer to 60. Then let's look at this one. Let's look at our neighbor first. That's how we determine. Is this closer to 35 or 36? 35. That's a wimpy little one. So it's going to stay 35. Okay, and then this should be an easy add. 0, 5, 9. If you got 950, give yourself a check. But today, because I had a problem yesterday of some people not showing your work, I want to make sure everybody knows how to show their work. So let's go over to the number 5, 6, 7, 8. Where are we rounding these? 100. We're rounding it to there's 100. So when I say 100, there are 2 zeros. So that means we're going to go over 2 places, 1, 2, and here's our 100. Put a little line for the 100. Put a little line here for the 100. Put a little line here for the 100. Put a little line here for the 100. Now, I said yesterday you could take a shortcut. But on the first one, I'm going to actually do the real rounding. So here's my neighbor, big macho guy. So is this going to stay a 3 or is it going to become a 4? It's going to become a 4. And on this first one, I'll go ahead and show you that it's 400. And then we'll do the shortcuts on the rest of them. Then on this one, is this closer to 200 or 300? 200. Very good. So if you added this, who knows what it adds up to? 650?
No, 600.
600. So 600. Okay. If you got that right and you showed work, give yourself a check. Now, if you did the shortcut of the 4 and the 2, that's fine too. But I'm just adding this on today. So now we're going to do the shortcut for the rest of them. I know because we're rounding to the hundreds, what are these two numbers going to be? They're going to be zeros because all of those are going to change to zeros. So now let's look at this one. Is this closer to 500 or 600?
500.
500. So I'm just going to do my little shortcut, put a 5. Is this going to be closer to 400 or 500?
400.
400. And then we can add them. Who knows what our final answer is going to be? 900. So 5 and 4 is 9. So our answer is 900. Do you understand how you're supposed to show the work? Then let's go ahead and go to this next one. The next one. Again, what's going to happen with these two numbers? These sets of numbers right here. They're going to change to zeros because we're rounding to 100. So I can already put that down there. And now let's go ahead and see what we're rounding to. So keep a watch on your neighbor. If he's a big macho guy, it's big enough to add 1. So is this going to be closer to 400 or 500? 500. So I'm going to put a 5. Then is this closer to, and again, you have to have that 5 there. So don't just take my answer. You need to make sure that you're showing the work. Yes, sir. All right. Well, I'm going to ask everybody. Is on this one, is this closer to 300 or 400? 400. So again, 5 and 4 is what? 9. If you got a 900, in fact, give yourself a check on this one. Give yourself a check on that one. Okay. Then, let's go ahead and, if we're rounding to 100, what happens to these last two digits? They become 0. And then, is this first one going to be closer to, look at your neighbor, is it closer to 600, Francisco, or 700? 600. So I'm going to put a little 6. And then John, is this going closer to 100 or 200? Good job, 2. And then let's just add them. 6 and 2 is what?
8.
Is 8. All right. Now, you had yesterday your helper. Your helper will always be the mixed up answers. You need to always make sure. So I'm sure you probably already checked off a 700, an 870, a 610, a 950, a 600, 2 900s, and our last 800. So that always, if you don't get something right, you know, if you're at home, you ask your parent, or if you're here, you ask me, and you don't go on until we figure out what is going wrong. So let's look at the last row. And then, so this is front end estimation. Well, here's our front number. It happens to be actually the hundreds place. So draw a line here. We're rounding to right there. Draw a line just behind those front numbers. Draw a line just behind those front numbers. Draw a line just before or just after those front numbers. So this is the work that I need to see. And then, who knows what's going to happen with these two rows of numbers? They change to what? Zeros. In fact, what happens to these two? 0. What happens to these two? 0. What happens to these two? 0. Okay. So now we're going to go ahead and look and see how it rounds on all of them. So is this one going to round to 400 or 500?
400.
Very good. Is this one going to round to 300? Jaden, help me out. Or is this one going to round to 400? Okay, look at your neighbor. What's that? 400. Good job. So 4 and 4 is what? 8. So our final answer, that's approximately 800. If I rounded it, my answer should be close to 800. Then, I lost my phone somewhere. All right, then this one, the next one is, so, is everybody up with me? Is anybody behind? Anybody still writing? Okay. Okay, I'll wait just a moment because I don't want to go so fast that you don't get it. Okay, awesome. All right, so let's look at this one. Is this one close to, is it Emmanuel? Is this one closer to 600 or 700? Yeah, because of that great big macho number. Very good. And then, is it Gia? Is this closer to 200 or 300?
300.
Very good. And, oh, this is a special one. I don't have room to put it.
1,000.
What happens, well, and I only have room for one. They didn't leave us an extra box. So 7 and 3 is 10. So we have to put the 1 out here and the 0 here. So those people that are saying 1,000 are correct. I'm trying to look for my phone/calculator. I'll have to call it in just a moment because I was going to show you what that adds up to. Well, I'll just have to wait. Okay. So let's go ahead and look at the next one. Is this closer to 300 or 400? 300, that's a 3. Is this closer to 400 or 500? 400. And then so our final answer, 3 and 4 is what?
7.
Is 7. So our final answer is, that would be approximately 700. Give yourself a check if you got that. Give yourself a big check if you got that. All right. Then, let's go ahead and look at this one. Oh, now they give us 2. Now they give us 2 spaces. So, that's interesting. Hold on just a second. Use front-end estimation. 7, 3. I only had 1,000 up there. There should have been 2.
Yeah, it's not 2.
There should have been 2. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this one. On this one, is this going to be 800 or 900? Okay, look at that for 800. Remember, if this neighbor is 0, I'll put it over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are my fingers. If it's a 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, it is not big enough to round our number. But if it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if it's a 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, we can go ahead and add 1. So is this one going to, again, I look at my neighbor, is this going to be 8 or 9? 8. 800. Is this one going to be closer to 200 or 300?
200.
200. And then 8 plus 2 is what?
10.
Hold on something. Did I do something wrong here? That's a 7. I'm just looking back at this because I don't know why I didn't have 2,000s up there. 7 and 3 is 10. We have that right. So that's going to be 8 and 2 is 10. And so I'm going to cross off 800, 700, 800, 700. And somebody should have come to me and say, Mrs., I got 1,000. But I also got 1,000 here. But you only have 1,000. And I'd say, oops, I forgot to write it. Okay? But you want to make sure that we didn't make a mistake somehow. So I'm going to cross those 2 off, and that is it. So let's go ahead and see what we're going to do today. Okay. So let's go down to the, yes ma'am. What's that? Do you write what?
The other 1,000 people.
It's going to be on the paper. We're going to do it in a second. So go to this problem here real quick. It says, about how many people attend the movie? Now, when it says about, you get to round the numbers. Yes, Matthew, question?
Well, are we writing 1,000 or are we should have crossed out the 700 because there's 700.
Yeah, just don't say something.
Are there only two? There's one. Oh, there's only two. Yeah, don't be crossing out things that we didn't get. How did I cross out 3? Well, oh, 1. You are absolutely right. There's only 2. So I just made a mistake. Sorry about that. 1 should have been left over. Girls and boys, let's go on. All right, so on this one, it says about how many attended the movie. Go to this problem where a movie is attended by 268 adults, 187 students. What would we normally have to do to find that total? Add. So let's set it up right here, but I don't want you to really add. Okay. This one we're going to go ahead and it says about, so I don't need the exact amount, and so we're going to round right about here. Okay. So write those two numbers. Would this be closer to 200 or 300?
300.
So I'm going to write the whole 300. Then, is the next one closer to 200? I'm sorry, 100 or 200?
200.
200. And so about how many people attended?
500.
About, and in fact, our numbers were really less than that. So I'm going to say, I'm going to start it way over here. Less than 500. So a little bit less than 500. Okay.
Is that an N?
That's an N. T-H-A-N.
Oh.
Right. Then let's do one more, and then I'm going to tell you what your job is going to be. So, and you don't have to explain. We're going to show how we did it. How do you explain? Do you call the teacher and say, let me explain to you how I did it? Or do they want you to explain it in writing? Well, you know, I like this, to me, is my explaining. Explain it with numbers. So on this one, the Wildcats scored 82, 59, and 67 points in all 3 games. Did they score at least 200 points in all? Explain using estimation. Well, how would I find their total points? Yes, we're going to add them. So go ahead and put 82, 59, and 67. Now, we're not really going to add that. We're going to do it by rounding. See, we're going to estimate. So, again, we're rounding right here. We're rounding to the tens. Is this closer to 80 or 90?
80.
80, because that 2 is so small. So put in 80. Sir, put the plastic thing away right now. And you should be writing here, sweetie. All right, is this closer to 50 or 60? 60, that's a big macho number. So that we can increase that 5 by 1. And this one, is this closer to 60 or 70?
70.
70. Now we're going to go ahead and add these up. So we round it up on one, up on a second, and down on this one. So this is going to be 0. And then, who can tell me a way that you can do this? Tenny, what would you think? Okay, that's not a bad way. I did what did you do?
You can take 1 from the 8 and 7 plus 7 plus 1
Well, that's a good way to do it. She's saying take 1 from this, and it would be a 7, and put it here. Then it would be a 7, right? We'd have 3 7s. Do you know what 3 7s are? 7 and 7 is 14. What's your way?
So my way is I take 2 from the 8, and then I put it from the 6. So then I would have to add 7 and 7, and then just add 6 more and 5 more.
Okay, I like all the ways. I like also the one where you take 2 from this one, which would leave that a 4, and then you put it here, so that would make it 10. And then we'd have 7 and 4, which is 11, and 10 is, I think, 21. Okay. So the question is, did he score at least 200 points?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. And I'm just going to put yes. And he scored actually about 210. So we're going to leave it there. Okay, girls and boys, here is your job. Your job is to follow my examples of how to show the work. And you can keep flipping it back to look at this. Your job is to do these. And now I'm going to tell you one other thing. Today we're not going to work in partners because I saw that some person in the group was stronger doing the work, and then some people were not doing their own work. So I really want you to do all your own work. So go ahead and get started. You have the rest of the period to do this. And people at home? Yes, didn't we, doesn't it say round, round, round on all of these? It's the same types of problems exactly like these. So you will not do any actual addition. Yes, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. You're following what it says here. This one you're rounding to the nearest 10. This one you're rounding to the 100. And then the front hand, again, ma'am, it is exactly the same things we did here. Okay? So have a good day, people at home. And that is your assignment.